yourself at all. Nothing would make me happier than if that happened the way that you just.
I just wanted on record that I'm very uncomfortable with what Jordan just said in case that was live.
Yeah, we don't use that term anymore. Monday, November 27th, NBA Strategy Show is here. 5-game slate ahead of us. We actually have the perfect week. We don't have more than 10 games on a single day this week, so we should have a good time breaking down the NBA. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Better, but I don't want to bury the lead, and trust me, I don't want to talk about it either. Adam got first and second on Saturday, so I don't know what kind of in he has at DraftKings, but that smells like he cheated.
Yeah, but it was badly needed. I'd been losing, and so DraftKings just wanted to ensure that they keep getting rake, and they just bumped me to the top at the end.
All jokes aside, awesome. Have you ever finished first, second before like that?
Not in that tournament.
Large contest?
Yeah, not in. I don't think I have in that tournament. I know a couple of years ago I got first, second, and third. I think in like a NFL 3 max.
Okay,
which was cool. But
yeah,
I don't think I've done it in that. I know like back when I first started playing, I had a lot of slates where I'd be several teams in the top 10 because I would run like really concentrated cores of players, but I don't think I ever got first and second.
Okay, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was one of those obviously I was sweating it out rooting for the win, but when my second team caught my first team, I immediately just became really greedy and I'm rooting for the second team to also get enough points just because it was I want the 100K, but I really really want first and second.
I woke up Sunday morning, I guess, right? Yeah. You won Saturday night? Yeah. I woke up Sunday morning getting ready to hop on and start prepping my NBA stuff. I saw your DMs being I got first and second. I immediately go and check that. And for the first, I would say legitimately 90 minutes that I was awake, I was not happy. It was I was real disgusted. I was very sour taste in my mouth. And I mean this sincerely. There is no joke.
I believe you. I remember when you won the baseball tournament.
Yeah, I was unhappy.
Yeah, no.
And then eventually it's just okay, I'm good. I got it out of my system. But you want it to be you so bad.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've said it before. When people I know win, usually after the fact, I'm able to be happy for them. But when I'm night of, I see somebody at the top of a tournament. If I know you and I realize somebody's going to win every tournament and I'll be dead, so it's not I'm just rooting for myself. If I know you, I am actively hoping you get passed by somebody that I've never heard of.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All I wanted was your money. Obviously, it hurt. It hurt me to go about my day. If it wasn't so cold and dreary yesterday morning, I would have went for a walk just to clear my head. But we're good now. Rough Buff Fire says, "Don't hate, congratulate." I'm quite confident that if I had shipped first and second Saturday night and Adam woke up to my DM of that, he would have had a very similar experience.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A lot of unhappiness. Yeah,
especially and it also depends how things are going. I had been in a cold streak. I know you have too. So now, if somebody I knew had won a big NFL tournament yesterday, it would be cool, good for you. If it had happened on Friday, we've been just as pissed off as you.
Yeah, if without question, if I had won Thursday and then you won Saturday, I wake up nice, man. We both got one this week. Since I didn't, I didn't.
Right. But even that, if I made 128K on Saturday. If you made 200K yesterday, I'd have been still pissed.
Yep, absolutely. Part of it's therapeutic in a way. You gotta work. You gotta let yourself know that you gotta work through those emotions from time to time. You ready to talk some basketball?
Yeah.
5-game slate. 3 games start at 7, which is pretty fun. Then a 9 o'clock and a 10:30. We have a giant descending order in points, by the way. Denver Clippers, 10:30 start, 218 total. We've got Indy playing Portland in the 7 o'clock games with a 240 total. The Lakers, Philly, and Wizards, Pistons are all in the 230s. This is a hell of a slate. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get it started with your Washington Wizards, 3.5-point underdogs in Detroit. It's a 235 total. As I mentioned, we do have news that we are waiting on. Jordan Poole, questionable. That is an actual injury designation, not just a guess of whether or not he's going to play. And then still no DeLon Wright. So we have to start, unfortunately, with Jordan Poole, who is currently projected for, mid-tier ownership and the most popular wizard which doesn't help at all. If he plays, how do you feel about $6,800 Jordan Poole?
Yeah, I mean, if he plays, he still looks good at this price tag. There's a reason he was 40% owned on Saturday night. Obviously, This isn't a matchup with Atlanta, so it's not as appealing, but he's still going to look good at this price tag. As bad as he's been from a real life standpoint this year, he's still been about a fantasy point per minute guy. There is some pretty decent chance that like he improves his fantasy production as the year goes on. It can't really get worse, I don't think, based on his role with the Wizards. So he's still, I think it's just a spot where, everything comes down to salary and ownership in DFS, and you kind of have to put the perception of Jordan Poole, the player, aside and realize that this guy is $6,800. He's been god awful and still been just shy of a fantasy point per minute player. He's also on a team that plays at one of the fastest paces in the league. So, which is nice for, a volume scorer to just be able to get more volume. So the price tag looks good. The ownership looks reasonable right now at 18%. Certainly a big piece of injury news, and I'm very glad this is in the first game.
Yeah. You and me both. Because the trickle down then is huge. So like I ran my stuff. I'm 2xing Jordan Poole. I've got 35%. Basically, everybody else is in single digits on the DK side. Kuzma just sneaks up over that 10% mark. On FanDuel, Denny's at 10, Poole's at 27, Kuzma's at 36, where he's only 7,900 and has an MPE. Tyus Jones is at 23%. He's $600 cheaper. What else do you see on the Wizard side for DK that you'd be willing to go to, assuming Poole is in? Because I think they don't look good at all.
Yeah, I think the rest of it, assuming Poole is in, it's kind of just secondary options. Kuzma at 8,600 still certainly has a ceiling, but that price tag is getting up there for somebody that on average is giving you like 31, 32 minutes a night. Certainly can play more at times, but the price tag's expensive. He's been very good, 1.25 to 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. Probably would have triple doubled Saturday without Poole had he needed to play the fourth quarter. Gafford at 5,700 is fine, getting 9% ownership. Tyus Jones salaries come up a bit. Avdia at 6,100 is where he has been. Everybody else kind of just looks like secondary plays. I think Kuzma and Gafford are most likely the two that you get to after Poole, and then it's just kind of mixing in Jones, Avdia, Gallo, Koulibaly as just, last piece in types.
So I basically only have Poole. I got to 35% Poole. I have 4% of Gafford, a share of Denny, a share of Kyle Kuzma. It's pretty bleak. What do we do here if Poole is out? We saw Koulibaly play close to 32 minutes over the weekend. Kispert got up to 28 minutes. It was obviously a very interesting game because we ended up seeing Omer Uri, Anthony Gill, Jared Butler really dusted off everybody. Gallo sat on the back-to-back. What stands out for the Wizards if Poole isn't there? Does anything stand out for the Wizards if Poole isn't there?
So I think it makes Kuzma look better just because there's not many scoring options on this team outside of Kuzma and Poole. And we did see the bigger playmaking role for Kuzma as well. That's something that, keep in mind, they started doing with him last year too, and he can do it. It's something he has. It's not something that, like, when you have Tyus Jones, you don't need to rely on him for that heavily, but it is something, he can take on as a secondary playmaker if Poole is out, in addition to the scoring and rebounding. So I think it makes Kuzma look better. And then it's just going to make, I think, your secondary plays here look better. There's potentially more playing time available for Avdia. We didn't see it last game. Only played 17 minutes, but, potentially could be asked to do more. Gallo didn't play last game, but certainly, can play his, or probably will play his, 18, 20 minutes, whatever it may be. More playing time should be available for Kispert, 28 minutes and 3 quarters last game. Shamet didn't get extra run last game, but certainly could at 3,800. Koulibaly played a lot and probably will again if Poole is out. So I think that, Kuzma's the good player that gets the biggest bump there. And then it's just all the other guys look marginally better than they did.
Yeah, it's really weird. You would expect, like, in this matchup, 235 total matchup against the Pistons, Jordan Poole, they lose their, like, quote unquote, I don't want to say best player, but, like, where I'm going with that, guy that shoots the most or close to the most. And it's just, like, really not going to unlock any crazy value or anything like that. Like, all these guys are sort of already priced where they should be. There's no value in Kispert at 4,700 or Koulibaly at 4,800. Like, those are just the prices that those guys should be at when they're 0.75 fantasy point per minute dudes. It's kind of gross.
I just finished, I just finished my early run, and I'm getting to a lot of players from the Wizards. I have 9 players from the Wizards in at least one lineup. But Kuzma is my highest owned guy at 19%. So I am like 2x the field on Kuzma. I'm right with the field at 18% on Poole. I have 17% Tyus Jones, so I'm quite a bit over on him.
Wow.
I'm at 9% Gafford, so I'm with the field there. And then it's 5% or less of Shamit, Koulibaly, Avdia, Gallo, Kispert, just round the out lineups with those guys.
Okay. I'm surprised to hear that you're on that much of Washington right now.
It makes sense.
Such a homer.
Yeah, looking at the boom bust tool, it makes sense. We have Kuzma with a 12.5% chance of being optimal at 10% owned. Not surprised I'm over on him. We have Tyus Jones 8% to be optimal at 4% owned, so not surprised I'm getting over on him. I'm in line with the field on most other stuff.
I'm way light on my projections for these guys in compare. Like I'm 4 points under on Kuzma. I'm 3 points short on Tyus Jones.
Well, I prefer using projections that win 125K than yours.
I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. Anything else you want to touch on for the Washington side of this?
No.
I walked right into that one, huh?
Yep. I even like paused for a minute and just let you keep walking into it.
That one stung. That one stung. No Boyan, no Joe Harris, no Monty Morris. This is where all the ownership is. 27% to Asar Thompson. I'm doubling it. 22 to Cade Thompson. Cade Cunningham. I'm more than doubling it. 38 to Isaiah Livers. I'm over it. 16% to Isaiah Stewart. I'm more than doubling it. 64 to Jaden Ivey. Over there as well. 37 to Jalen Duren. I'm actually a little bit under, thank God. It's really hard to not want to get to the Pistons here. There's potentially even more interesting things for the Pistons, depending on how everything ends up breaking. But matchups against the Wizards are generally pretty good.
Yeah, one of the best matchups you're going to get, and I'm getting a ton of them as well. I'm with you there. Popcorn machine is updated, by the way, if you hadn't noticed.
I know, I saw that this morning. I was very happy. Yeah. I love add more funds. I just like the display of Popcorn Machine because I've been using it longer.
So would I, but I'd gotten to the point where I'd stopped even like expecting it to be updated. And so I just refreshed it, like, just in case. And so I'm pretty happy. But I'm getting a lot of this team. I have 68% Jaden Ivey right now. He's 64% owned. So in line with the field there, point guard, shooting guard on DraftKings at 5,400. Just a really, really good price tag. Playing time's been up since he's been in the starting lineup. Obviously, this is with the caveat that he remains in the starting lineup, but he's just going to look really, really good in this spot. And it's a 5-game slate. So, you're still going to have plenty of good point guard options, but he does have shooting guard eligibility. He is very cheap. You're not going to have as many options, obviously, as you would on larger slates. So I'm getting a lot of that. I'm getting the 64% Isaiah Livers, who that's gross, but played 26 minutes against Indiana. He did play garbage time, but like so did Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. So I think that was like mostly an actual closing lineup, or at least like it wasn't not a closing lineup. Like they still had actual guys out there, and he got the 26 minutes. We know this is somebody that they want to give minutes to. He's only 3,500. He's not a good point per minute guy, but power forward eligible at that price tag. I'm getting a lot of him as a value piece. I'm getting to 30% Asar Thompson, so I'm in line with the field there at 6,500. I have 28% Cade, so slightly over on his 22% ownership. 17% Burks, 13% Duren. So fading Duren pretty aggressively right now. I think you said you were as well. And I'm not really surprised by that. We have him with a 21% chance of being optimal at 37% owned. We know the opportunity cost that comes with the center position. We know that you have a lot of alternatives. You have, Miles Turner on this slate. You have Ayton, you have Embiid, you have Davis, you have Jokic. There's a lot of ways you can go. I haven't actually looked at my overall exposures, but based on having 64% Isaiah Livers, I have a feeling that I'm playing some Jokic and Embiid in place of this Jaren Duren ownership, which clearly I'm going to be fine with. I'm over the field on Burks, 4,600 shooting guard, small forward, only 6% owned, 10% chance of being optimal. The playing time is all over the place. I mean, he played
erratic.
What?
It's erratic.
Yeah. 14 minutes last game, and Livers being back doesn't help, just another rotation body out there. But he is cheap. He's low owned. I don't mind rolling the dice, just hoping you get the 22-minute Burks game.
Do you think that Jalen Duren starts today?
Probably, but I don't know. I thought he was going to start last game.
Ended up playing 29 minutes. I don't think this is what they're doing because this team's just dog shit. They've lost 13 straight. They're primed to lose like 13 more. I feel like the goal is to have Duren and Stewart be on the court as little as possible together. I think like the Bagley Duren or Bagley Stewart fit is just better than Duren plus Stewart. I don't
But
know.
then why weren't they subbing Duren in for Stewart?
So they basically overlapped like that, like very little overlap for Duren and Stewart. Like I know Duren is coming in for Bagley. A lot until the fourth quarter. It's like a minute at a time.
Yeah, okay. So a couple minutes in the first, second, and third, and then like half of the fourth quarter. But like Duren and Bagley didn't share the floor at all. Like I get what you're saying, but I just think if they were trying to avoid that, they would have just been subbing Duren in for Stewart.
Sort of. I just don't know. Like they're not. If they were going to do this, I feel like they would just not start Stewart over Duren, which would make more sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't really know what their goal is. Like I gave Duren 29 minutes. I just assume that's the long-term idea. But like, if he's going to play 29 minutes, why didn't he start?
Good question.
It makes no sense.
I mean, though, to me, the most likely answer there is that it's the thing where coaches just have no self-control and they forget that they're like in charge of how much people play. So going into the game, it was probably like, oh, we're going to, limit Duren's minutes a little bit. And then as the game went on, it was just like, oh, whoops, he played 30 minutes.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of Duren just playing like the final 8 minutes of the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and then fourth quarter. Like that's how he gets his rotation. You just burn Bagley, but it all just doesn't match like my brain.
So like the big question here is, if Duren doesn't start, are you still comfortable going to like 28, 29 minutes?
I think so, because I don't think they want Bagley to close in any scenarios.
And then the follow-up is, if Duren starts, are you going higher than 28, 29 minutes?
I think I would probably go to 30. Like he's just been so in and out of everything. I wouldn't struggle to go to 30 if he were starting. I don't know how much higher I would go there. I think he's just kind of going to play that. Like if you just move Jalen Duren's first quarter rotation to the beginning of the first quarter and his third quarter rotation to the beginning of the third quarter, it all just makes sense, like normal starter run.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I don't think
it's just weird.
I don't think he should be projected much differently starting or coming off the bench. He has started 8 games this year. He's played 28.8 minutes per game. We just saw him play 29 off the bench in a game where he did also just not play the last 35 seconds. So, could have played close to a minute more. Yeah. Like, I think just expecting 28, 29 minutes, no matter where he is, makes sense.
I agree.
I think that there is more risk if he's coming off the bench, just in the sense that, he's coming off the bench. But
that fourth quarter rotation could just become like James Wiseman because they're down by 50.
Right. Or the game's going in a way where it just becomes Stewart with like Livers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, it's all just gross. I don't like, you mentioned having a lot of Livers. I think it makes sense. I don't really know how you avoid that given what value we have right now. Ivy to me is very clearly the best play on the slate. Like it's just this whole Pistons team that plays legitimate minutes are hard to get away from.
Yeah, and to just clarify in chat, because I hate even saying this word, and I forgot that I did. Pinstripe Pimp said, when you say you're fading a player, do you mean you're not getting him in your crunches, or that you were forcing it? In that case, I meant it as I just don't have as much as the field. I'd said it referring to Duren. I have, what did I say? I have 13% of him, but the field's at 36. So I just meant it in the sense that I'm not getting there. I usually try and avoid it. People use it differently. Like some people say, oh, that means you're not playing anybody. Whatever. Like you're not playing them at all. Like I'm not manually forcing anything in or out of my lineups. I just meant it in the sense that I don't have as much as the field right now. But generally I try and avoid even saying it. Yeah,
I usually use it in terms of like being around half the field or less than that.
But like the other problem with like the way I said it is when you say it like that, it sounds like you're like making the intentional decision to be under the field on Duren, which I'm not. Like this could have come out with me having twice the field on Duren, and it would have been like, okay, cool. I don't care about that either.
All told, I think that you have to have a lot of the Detroit Pistons today.
Yeah, I have fewer players from the Pistons than the Wizards, but I have a hell of a lot more exposure going to the Pistons.
Yeah, I have a ton coming in here. Happy to get over on Cade. Asar Thompson is making me a little nervous, but the small forward eligibility I think is just massive.
You have a lot too.
I have 49.
Okay, I have 30.
Yeah. 49, 59, 49, 43, 73, and 26 to Duren. Like I just have around 50 of all of these dudes. Give me every combination of Pistons, I guess. Hell of a game to start it off. Anything else you want to touch on here?
No, hopefully nobody gets hurt in warmups.
Yeah.
Or hopefully they do. I don't know. It worked out well for me.
For real. As always, you and I are on the same page for this, and you, in fact, did tweet it out. I don't give a shit at all if people like it's annoying.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather like the work that I did not get invalidated. It will help me just as much as it hurts me.
Right. And like somebody replied to that and they're right. Like if you take it to the extreme that like 90% of players randomly get scratched, then it's bad for good players because it's just introducing a ton more volatility. But with as infrequently as it happens, realistically, you're not living anywhere near long enough for it to affect your bottom line. You know, you're going to get, I've had plenty of days where you get the late scratch and it's like, oh, great, that guy was in 80% of my lineups. I'm done. I've had the day, you know, like it is a good feeling when it's like, oh, Jordan Poole's out and you look and you're like, oh, I had half the field. Like I'm in good shape.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels awesome when it happens.
And there's no solution for the sites. Like
no,
until the NBA actually has scheduled start times, there's nothing the sites can do. And I feel bad for the sites kind of because like they get heat for it, but it's like people don't realize the NBA games don't have a scheduled tip because it's so illogical that they don't have a scheduled tip that people just assume they do. And they're like, why isn't DraftKings just locking at 7:10? It's like, because the game is starting anywhere from 7:08 to 7:12.
That's why another perk of soccer, they kick off on the dot, top of the hour.
Yeah, because you see it all the time. Like people are like, well, why do they lock at 7:07 for baseball? Why can't they do it for NBA? And it's like, because baseball says our game is starting at 7:07 and the NBA says our game's starting sometime around here.
The NBA is just like, our game is starting.
Right. Yeah. It will not be before 7:00. And whenever everybody's just ready to go, we're going to go.
Yeah. Whenever the mascot's done firing off the t-shirt cannon, we're going to be able to get this one started. All right. Schedule for the rest of the day. NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. coming up a little bit later on. NBA deeper dive at 5. Adam and I will be back, and we'll have a little bit more information for that one. We'll take that one all the way up till 6. NBA live before lock will go from 6 to 7. And then NFL showdown live before lock from 7:15 on to lock. Also, I got a promo for you. It's not the Sims promo that you had before, and it's not the promo that you listened to on the Process show, which was incredibly wrong, and I gave you all of that incredibly wrong information. This is what we've got going on for Cyber Monday until someone tells me in a half hour that has also changed once again. The promo code is CYBER. NBA lineup generator, or I guess NFL lineup generator in this case, but since you're watching this show, NBA lineup generator $4.95. I think personally that this is the best thing that we can offer to the large majority of people that watch this show. It's essentially Sims Ultralight. We handle all of the building on the back end. We get rid of everything that stinks. We present the rest to you. Contrarian builds, chalky builds, balanced builds. Choose whatever you want. Lock a player in if you want. Swap them around. You click a button, lineup pops up. If you like it, click save. If you don't, click discard. Another one will pop right up again. You can export up to 20 via CSV. You will not get a better jumpstart to building lineups than you will by using this tool. And at $4.95, it's the cost of like a coffee, like a baseline coffee at Starbucks. This can make you money. This is, I think personally, like I said, the best thing that you guys can get to. If you have the money for the Sims, by all means, please come in and get the Sims tool. I don't assume that everybody just has hundreds of dollars a month to play. $4.95 for the lineup generator. You should want to check that out if you've never done it before. Link in the description or in chat. Thank you guys. Sign up for the lineup generator. Cyber Monday ends tomorrow too. So you got to take advantage quick, very quick. Yeah. Do you want to hit on what you're hitting on right now?
Yeah, I can just say it. So this is the issue. Like if you push, like Josh Gillum is saying, games usually start at 7:15, which they usually start at 7:10. But for the sake of his example, just push it to 7:10. Anytime a game starts at 7:09, the entire slate is canceled. All the work you put in is done. Like they tried this with MMA, and they put late swap in MMA, and they tried this, and amongst other reasons that it just wasn't feasible, you were just getting fights that were starting because you're still guessing at the start time. You're saying, yeah, it's going to start around here. We'll lock it at 7:15. Fight starts at 7:13. Entire slate's done.
Yeah, you're dead in the water if you try doing that stuff in the NBA. Nobody's going to be happy about that. All right, Travis hit us with the super chat. $28 Canadian, which is, I assume, pennies in American tender. Happy to have the shit talking Adam back. You're not you when you're on a downswing. Congrats on getting a Snickers, I guess. Hopefully some strippers got their college tuition paid. Winning 100K feels awesome, but a real man does it with 3 lineups. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'd say I did only play 50, so
Yeah,
I'm not one of those 150 max assholes.
Yeah, those people suck. They just get broke faster.
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
I do. Good. I was thinking the other day, like, am I going to stick to doing that? Because I had started doing it back, I don't know, June or July.
Yeah.
And I kind of was just realizing, like, obviously there are plenty of times that lineup 51 through 150 is good. But like, it was like, I'm getting a lot of like close finishes and good sweats with like my top 50 lineups. Why am I putting out an extra $1,500 or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And like, so yeah, I mean, I have 2 6-figure wins in the last 4 months with 50 lineups. I feel like I should just keep doing it, even though like obviously I could play more.
There are times where I think you like on the day-to-day of the NBA, I think like maintaining the 50 is fine. Yeah. The day where it's like, oh, it's 200 today, it's like, okay, I'm going to max this then.
What'd you say?
When you get the days where like you have the bigger contests, the mega fadeaway or whatever, where it's 250 to first, it's like, okay, I like anytime you can get more entries in that type of field, like you just want it's that much better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like even like there are most weeks this NFL season, I think I've played 150 just because like there's fewer NFL weeks. The edge in NFL is bigger than any other sport. There's way more money to be made in NFL. But like on the day-to-day basketball, baseball, I'm not even convinced like I'm going to consistently play 150.
It's really interesting to think about like we say 150 so casually and we think about it like that, but like all we're doing is just really like hitting round numbers or like the cap that you can have. Like there's no like I don't like people would land on 150 if it was sort of like uncapped. You know, like some people would be like, oh, like you would so many people would just naturally put in 100.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's something too. And this is kind of maybe useful for people, but like it's something that I kind of just never even really thought of it. Like I've always thought of it as like play 150 and 150 max contests, play 3 and 3 max or whatever. And I remember I was talking to Alex one time like a while ago because I was thinking about moving up to playing like the $44, $88, whatever it was. And I was like, but I don't want to put like 40 lineups in. He's like, you realize you could just play like 20, right? And it was like I hadn't really thought of that. But I think there's a tendency, and like it's one of the really hard things with DFS in general is like not comparing yourself to like what other people are doing or how much they're winning or whatever. Like if you're putting the large field $15 is going to be like the softest tournament that there is, at least in that price range. Like obviously you're like inexpensive stuff is softer, but like if you're just putting 50 lineups in $750, you're still getting a return on your money. Like you're still getting that profit. You're just not playing 2,250. Like it took a really long time for that to sink in. Like you can still just profit while taking less risk.
Yeah. And like, not to mention lineup 51 through 150, while incremental, all grade out worse than 1 through 50. Like you are increasing your chances of winning the entire contest because you simply have more tickets, but you are adding incrementally worse lineups, technically speaking.
Yeah. And so here's and Josh Gillum just said it. That's how I've thought about it for so long. And it kind of just like, I felt like such an idiot when I realized like I was looking at it completely wrong. He said the reason most do 150 is because the other great players are doing 150. So if you do 50, you're behind the 8 ball to start. So if I play 50 and Chipotle plays 150 and Alex plays 150, Alex and Chipotle are more likely to win the tournament than I am.
Yeah.
But I'm just as likely to profit with my 50 lineups.
Yeah.
Like it's still
your profitability isn't all that different.
Right. And like in theory, my expected ROI is going to be higher on 50 than 150 because those lineups should be better than the bottom 100.
Yeah. You just win less frequently.
Right. Like, because the whole reason you play as many lineups as you can is to try and lower your variance timeline as much as you can. Yeah. If you could only play one lineup in these lotteries a day, like there would be no point in playing DFS because you're probably just never going to win in your life. But it's not like you're not comparing yourself to, am I going to win as often as Chipotle? Like I'm still going to win often enough. I still have that upside with 50, and I'm just taking on less risk. And so like I'm going to make less money than Chipotle, but I'm still going to make money.
Yeah. And like, if you had, like, not to say that you don't have the bankroll, but like, if you just had $1 million sitting there, then you're firing 150 and you're not even really thinking about
right.
it. Like,
and that's the other thing. Like that's why
you should want to have the maximum amount of entries in the contest.
Right.
That is the thing best way to do that.
The thing that people like miss is how big your bankroll actually has to be. Like the number of 6-figure downswings I've had, like it's not like it happens once and it's like, wow, that was terrible, but it will never happen again. Like it's a pretty regular thing, especially playing like 150 in that contest. And so like for me there was always a tendency, and I always felt like, yeah, well, you kind of just have to suck it up until you have $1 million and you can really afford this. But like it is what it is. It's like, wait, why can't I just play 1/3 of the volume and turn those 100K downswings into like 35K downswings?
Oh man. The Portland Trail, this is a good discussion. We're getting some good stuff out there. The Portland Trailblazers are 12-point dogs in Indy, 241 total. For Portland, a little bit that we got to talk about here. They are on a back-to-back. We have no idea who is actually going to be playing for Portland today, but I think we could just assume if Malcolm Brogdon was able to play the back-to-back on the 21st and 22nd, that he's playing it today. 26% ownership coming into a $7,900 Malcolm Brogdon. Yuck, I might add. 11% ownership coming into DeAndre Ayton at 6,900. Much less yuck to me. 4% ownership to Shaedon Sharpe, 6 to Toumani Camara. Like, there's not a lot coming in here. Scoot Henderson is back. He did play yesterday, played 27 minutes, in fact. Let's start with Brogdon. 7,900, point guard, shooting guard. How do you feel about him here on the back-to-back?
My spreadsheet feels a lot better than my brain does.
I have 1%.
I have 43.
Yeah, I don't want that at all.
He's 7,900. He played 34 minutes yesterday. Assuming he's starting and playing, if he's just back to playing normal minutes, like he's going to look good.
Yeah.
It's the Pacers, which is amazing. So I'm getting a lot of him now. I obviously wouldn't be upset if that comes down a bit, given that it is a pretty scary situation with, Brogdon on a back-to-back. They are also double-digit dogs on the road. Like there's a lot that can go wrong here, but point guard, shooting guard's pretty nice. So I am getting a lot of him. The guy that really is standing out to me is, I had mentioned last game I wasn't getting to much Jalen Duren, and my assumption was that it was the guys at the top. 45% DeAndre Ayton at 11% owned. Yeah, and this is just one of those where I love that it's happening like this with the current projections. Maybe this all changes by lock, but if Jalen Duren's going to be projected for like 3.5 times the ownership of DeAndre Ayton, they are like the same play to me. Same price, similar price tag, very similar range of outcomes. So I had way less than the field on Duren, and I have way over the field on Ayton. Just kind of flipping those guys makes a ton of sense to me with the way things look right now.
46% Ayton for me. So we are in lockstep there. Are you getting to any of these other idiots, though? Shaedon Sharpe or Toumani Camara? Because I have 21% Camara, and, well, he's not great.
I'm getting to 4% Camara. I have 16% Grant, 13% Sharpe. They're my third and fourth highest owned guys from this team. We have Sharpe right now, shooting guard, small forward, 4% owned with an 11.5% chance of being optimal. The positional eligibility probably playing into that a bit. So I don't mind being a bit over the field there. 2x the field on Jeremy Grant. I really don't mind being basically over the field on every starter on this team, or at least the 4 main guys against the Pacers if people just aren't going to play them.
I got it 17% Jeremy Grant. I'm cool with that, but I am not getting to Brogdon as of right now. He is going to be somebody that I take a closer look at to try to bump him up, but
what do we have him?
I hate it.
So right now
it just feels so like I don't trust any bit of him today.
Neither do I. We only have him in for 31 minutes. We have him producing at every. We have him at 1.3 DraftKings points per minute.
He's been at 1.3 for basically the year.
Yeah, and it's obviously an above average matchup. I mean, there's nothing.
He will not be
a spot
Malcolm
where I'm
Brogdon's
looking
not
at
a
the projection on what.
Malcolm Brogdon's not a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy going forward. I can very comfortably say that.
If he plays the Pacers every day, he might be.
Oh, the Pacers will help for sure.
He's at 1.23 for the season.
Yeah.
This is not what I was gonna say. This isn't one of those. I'm not comfortable with how much Brogdon I have just because of it being Brogdon back to back, all of that. But this is not one of those like early morning spots where I'm getting a bunch of somebody and I'm looking at the projection and going like, oh, well, I don't agree with that. Like 31 minutes at 1.3 fantasy points per minute. I have no issue with that. And yeah, so I'm not looking at it as like, oh, well, that's going to come down because his projection is going to come down. I don't have any problem with any of those numbers.
I think it's a little high, but not crazy for this matchup. Like, I don't think he's like, you probably got to give an extra 0.05 to 0.1 just by playing Indiana. That matters a lot. So there is that piece of it all. Of course I say that, Josh, because I thought Miles Turner was a good defender. Why are they bad against centers?
My first guess is that whatever stat you're looking at is not adjusted for pace. So there's that.
Almost like they have a lot of possessions. So that was my first one. But also, probably because Miles Turner just isn't guarding centers. If this were 1984, I bet he would be guarding fives every trip down the court. Unfortunately,
the very, very, very slow Knicks, who are a very great defensive team, are good against centers. I'm surprised.
Oh man, that's fascinating. Just truly fascinating. Incredible. Oh God. Incredible. What do we want to do with the rest of Portland? Anything here?
No, I mean, I'm aggressively getting to Ayton and Brogdon right now. If that Ayton ownership, so as far as the Ayton and Duren stuff, like right now, 11% ownership coming to Ayton on DraftKings, and we have 30 whatever going to Duren, 37. So you're talking about basically 50% aggregate ownership there. If by lock, those are just like 25 a piece, I'm probably going to end up around the field on both Duren and Ayton. But with the way ownership's projected right now, I absolutely love the idea of just replacing a ton of Jalen Duren with DeAndre Ayton.
Adam, just out of curiosity, how much weight do you put into teams versus opponents' positions?
However much the projections I use weight it, which is probably
0?
Not much.
Yeah, so 0. Just checking.
Pretty much. If you're ever going to do it, center versus center, I think is when you do it. But you still have to pay attention to like the team and how they're going to play. Yeah. Indiana games are just a track meet. Like they're not posting up Miles Turner. They're just running the floor and scoring.
Yep. Yes, they are. Oh boy. Miles Turner, by the way, like one of the best shot blockers in basketball. I'm going to assume that he's just, continuing to do that.
Wow, those goalposts move. No, nobody said if you put Kelly Olynyk instead of Mitchell Robinson, they'd be the same defense. Obviously, their defense would be worse.
Yeah.
Nobody on Indiana plays defense except Miles Turner, and they play the entire game in transition, not set offenses.
I'm assuming that he would really prefer to have someone not Tyrese Halliburton playing defense for him. That's right. Not helping matters. I love Halliburton, but like that dude is a turnstile. That's not helping that they can't stop anybody at the point of attack. They're basically the Jazz from a couple of years ago, only worse. They play with pace.
Right.
We got to get to Indiana, though.
They're the Kings.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're the Kings.
From last year.
Yeah.
Except Sabonis
Obi Toppin's not helping the defensive stuff if he's out there. Benedict Matherin's not helping the defensive stuff. Buddy Hield's not helping any of that stuff. They got like 1.5 good defenders that aren't Miles Turner, and that's divvy that up however you want on Bruce Brown and Aaron Nesmith.
Right. Yes, I was going to ask if those were the two you were referring to.
So, Indiana, we have one piece of news that's very interesting. Aaron Nesmith is still questionable. I want to talk this through with you because we have 32% ownership coming into Jalen Smith, 0 to Isaiah Jackson. We do have Aaron Nesmith in, obviously. They are playing those dudes the same. If Aaron Nesmith happens to be out, is Isaiah Jackson a better play than Jalen Smith today?
I was still answering moron in chat. What?
If Aaron Nesmith is out today, is Isaiah Jackson a better play than Jalen Smith? We currently have Jalen Smith as the backup center projected for 32% ownership today. As of right now, they are playing Jalen Smith as the backup to Obi Toppin and Isaiah Jackson as the backup to Miles Turner.
Yeah, I'll say so. Last game, you got 19 minutes for Jackson. You got 21.5 for Smith. That's a really interesting rotation change.
Yeah. What do they do if Neesmith is back? Is Jackson gone?
I think
is Smith the backup 4, the backup 5? Does Neesmith start? Does Toppin start? Wild shit.
If Neesmith's back, I assume Jackson is gone and Jalen Smith's the backup center.
I would think that too.
I don't say that with a ton of confidence. It could just suddenly be Isaiah Jackson. It could also be a really ugly like 3-man split where Miles Turner obviously is getting his, but then the other two are back there. But my guess is it would be Jalen Smith. But if Neesmith's out, that's really interesting. We have Neesmith projected in right now, so as a result, we don't have any ownership coming into Jackson, and we don't really have him projected for anything. But if Neesmith's out, Jackson does become a very interesting play.
If Neesmith is in, I think, and like I'm getting Jalen Smith in this scenario. I want to be clear here, but Jalen Smith as the highest owned play on the Pacers, if Neesmith is back, is a death sentence for today. We have no idea what these idiots are actually going to do. For him to be 32% owned is a vote of confidence that simply does not exist.
That said, I'm getting 40% of him, but
I have 66.
Yeah. That is something that I would like to change, but he is 4,200. He's a good point per minute guy. It's really scary because if Neesmith's back, we do have no idea what that rotation looks like.
I don't think that you can project Jalen Smith to be just the backup center if Neesmith is back. I don't think we can confidently just give him the non-Miles Turner minutes.
Yeah, so right now we have 18 minutes to Smith, 6 to Jackson, 28 to Turner. So we have basically Smith playing 4 minutes alongside Turner.
Okay.
Which is possible. But I don't
think they do that.
That's not, I'll say that hasn't been the rotations that they've run. Like, I
haven't seen that once. In games where like we've seen Smith and Jackson both play double digits in minutes, that total, including Turner, is 48 on the dot.
Right. That's, like obviously they could play Smith at the 4 like they have been, but that hasn't been their MO this season. It's been Miles Turner has a straight backup, and mostly Obi Toppin has a straight backup.
Well, mostly Obi Toppin was the straight backup.
Well, yeah, but like at the beginning of the season, I think it was Neesmith backing up Toppin, maybe, or vice versa. I don't remember. There's been generally a 48-minute like Obi Toppin and somebody else.
Yeah. This is incredibly complicated to think about, but if we get to the point that Neesmith is in, I don't think that I can confidently project Jalen Smith to play 19 minutes as the straight backup and have him just be like this chalk value play that exists. I just don't. I don't see the path to. There's no way that you can just be like 100% confident that he's just getting that kind of run.
The counter argument here, though, is that we only have Jalen Smith at 18 minutes, and we still have him with a 26% chance of being optimal because he's so good point per minute, and it's a 5-game slate, and he's so cheap.
And they face Portland.
Right.
Yeah, like every bit of it looks good. Like you put all the pieces together, and I 100% understand Jalen Smith's ownership, why it exists, how good of a point per dollar play he is. But the actual outlook of how he'll be on the floor tonight is a gigantic question mark that I think brings you way more failure than success. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Like who do you want more of if, let's say, Neesmith is out? Who do you legitimately think you get more of in this scenario? Because then you're getting Jalen Smith at $600 cheaper.
You mean Isaiah Jackson at $600 cheaper?
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I would want them both if Neesmith's out, but like they're both 1.2 DraftKings point per minute guys. They're going to play similar minutes.
Yeah.
From a projection standpoint, at least if Neesmith's out. I probably prefer Jackson in that case slightly.
Would you assume that Jalen Smith is the significantly more popular option in that?
Okay. Yeah, because this is a new rotation change. It's not something you can be 100% confident continues to exist either. Like they could go with some random different rotation where Jalen Smith's the backup center and Isaiah Jackson is on the bench again. There is certainly there is, even if Neesmith's out, there is Isaiah Jackson DNP risk.
Yep.
So like
he has played 4 of the last 5 games. 5.
Yeah. Smith will probably 7. Will and should be more popular just for that reason. But Like if they run the same rotation they did without Nesmith last game, I think Isaiah Jackson's a better play than Jalen Smith. I think they're both good values, but I think Jackson's actually better.
Do you remember if Jalen Smith got hurt at all in like the past 2 weeks? He had 2.5 minutes in a game.
He got hurt in
Jackson
one
played
game.
17, 5.5 minutes.
He got hurt in one game.
Okay.
Well, he had one game where he got late scratched. And he had, I think, he had another game that he went to the locker room. I don't remember if he came back.
Yeah. Like he played 2.5 minutes on the 14th. Jackson played 17. Everybody was available. Then we got Nembhard out, which shouldn't really matter for this, but 13 to Jalen Smith, 12 to Jackson. The next game, still just Nembhard is the guy that's out. 5 to Jalen Smith, 12 to Jackson. It's just a really interesting dynamic for what this team is
also,
right now.
Who mentioned it in chat? Yeah. Chubb Sellen said in chat, like you only have to go back one more game to see the Isaiah Jackson not in the rotation game. Against Toronto with no Nembhard or Nesmith, Jalen Smith was the backup to Miles Turner as usual. You had Jordan Mora in the rotation for 14 minutes. And Isaiah Jackson didn't play at all. So it doesn't have to be Isaiah Jackson, but if you guaranteed me Isaiah Jackson was the backup 5 and Jalen Smith's the backup 4, I would rather play Isaiah Jackson. Jalen Smith is going to be the better play just because you have much less DNP risk on him than Isaiah Jackson.
It would make this so much easier if like Smith had the power forward eligibility that he very clearly should have, but he would also be 70% owned then. This team's pulling a lot of ownership, though. 7% to Nesmith if he plays, 7 to Nembhard, which is a tough sell to me. 14 to Mathurin, I have way more than that. 28 to Bruce Brown, I have more than that. 16 to Buddy Hield, who did not play at all in the fourth quarter of their most recent game. 15 to the $7,200 Miles Turner, which I'm still happy to get to. And then your boy, Tyrese Halliburton, up to 11K, and I think fully deserved, also should torch Portland. He's 5% owned. I actually have 11 of him at this point.
So do I. I'm getting a lot of this team too. So I'm assuming the next like 3 games are just going to be me being like, I don't know. I don't have these guys. But Jalen, if the slate started right now, and again, we have Nesmith projected in, Jalen Smith would be my highest owned guy at 40%. Buddy Hield would be next at 32. Fields at 16. So I'm 2X on him. I don't mind that. Price tag has come up a bit. He's 6,400, but this is a situation where the price tag was so low because of him coming off the bench that I'm not particularly concerned about it increasing because like it should. He's closer to correctly priced at 6,400, but he's a point per minute guy in a good matchup with shooting guard and small forward eligibility. Certainly don't mind having a lot of him. I'm at 26% on Bruce Brown, which puts me right in line with the field on him at 5,600. I'm getting to 12% Mathurin at 5,100, which is pretty much with the field. 11% Miles Turner, which is not too far behind the field at 7,200. So again, pretty much around the field on him, playing way more DeAndre Ayton in that price range, but pretty comparable range of outcomes for all of those guys. Turner's just a little bit more expensive. I'm 2X the field on Halliburton, which I love. It's just difficult to get to him at 11K in a lot of lineups, and that's why you're getting that 5 to 6% projected ownership. Might even come in a little bit higher. I think it can be difficult to project ownership on somebody like Halliburton where the salary is really high, but like he's also just doing absurd things this year. And you probably do just have some percentage of people being like, yeah, I'm going to override like this median projection, increase it a bit and just play Halliburton. But even if he comes in 8-9%, he's going to look like a pretty good contrarian play. 8% Nesmith, 3% Toppin and Nembhard. So this is another team where I'm getting a ton of them in the aggregate. I have 9 different Pacers in at least 5 out of 150 lineups right now. Smith, Hield, Brown are the ones that I'm getting the most of.
Yeah. And this could all just look even more wild as we move this one forward.
The only guy right now that I am like drastically different than the field on from the Pacers is being 2X the field on Halliburton.
Okay. That's the one you want
2X the field on Hield.
Yeah.
Which like perfectly happy with both of those.
Yep. Absolutely. I don't want 66% Jalen Smith, and I would be shocked if I have that by the time we get to lock, but he is the clearly best point per dollar play on the Pacers, and I don't think there's any argument any other direction.
Yeah, if I get 40%, I kind of view it as I realize that this can go wrong, and I might feel like an idiot when he plays 12 minutes and Isaiah Jackson plays 6 or 7, but
yeah,
also, you kind of You kind of have to take what the slate gives you. And if Isaiah Jackson didn't exist and you were guaranteed, like if Jalen Smith truly had the like a Nekwa Okongwu role where he is guaranteed to play every minute that Miles Turner doesn't play, he would be more than 32% owned.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So like it is baked in at least somewhat.
Absolutely. Well, these games start getting a lot worse now. I know everybody sees that we have been going for 55 minutes and we're only on to the third game, but I promise you, this one goes out with a whimper. I've already taken a lap through this one. We're going to go to the Lakers now. They are 5-point dogs in Philly, 231 total. We do have a couple questions here for the Lakers. AD probable, Rui out, LeBron and Cam Reddish both questionable, Vanderbilt and Vincent both still out. 22% ownership coming to LeBron, 22 to D'Angelo Russell, 16 to Austin Reeves, and 10 to AD. I basically don't have these dudes today. I am very minimal on the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, I'm not getting a lot in terms of amount. I have 7 different Lakers, but LeBron's my highest owned guy right now at 17%. He's tied with D'Angelo Russell for the field at 22%. So I'm in line with our optimal percentage on LeBron. I'm a little bit under the field. I'm getting to 9% Anthony Davis as my second highest owned guy. So right around the field on him. But, we've talked about center. I'm getting Jalen Smith. I'm getting DeAndre Ayton. I'm still getting some Duren, even though not as much as the field. Getting some Miles Turner. It's just tough to pay up for center on this slate. And then the other issue you're going to run into is if you do punt other positions so that you can pay up at center, you still have Embiid and Jokic looming at higher price tags than Davis. So it's just tough, I think, to make Anthony Davis a priority. Now, clearly, if you're getting to him, that's fine. It's Anthony Davis. The ceiling's massive, but really tough to prioritize that. And then I'm just getting 5% less of Reddish, Russell, Prince, Reeves, Wood. The two, I guess, that are interesting there are that the field is 22% on D'Angelo Russell. They are 16% on Austin Reeves. So I'm quite a bit below the field on both of those guys. But the way it's projected right now with the questionable players in for the Lakers, we have Russell 13% to be optimal at 22% owned. We have Reeves 11% to be optimal at 16% owned. Those are two guys where if that data looks the same at lock as it does now, I'd be perfectly happy to be under the field on those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna need some information here. The status of LeBron obviously is massive, but even just simply getting Cam Reddish in there or not is going to have a big time trickle down effect. That's a lot of additional minutes, whether or not he's playing or not. So
yeah, and worth noting, I mean, they ran an 8-man rotation last game despite missing like half their team.
Yeah, Max Christie played 33 minutes. If you not that he's a good per minute dude, but if you start projecting Max Christie for 30 minutes today, the $3,900 shooting guard small forward is going to look a lot different than he does right now.
Yeah, and you need Reddish to be out for that. You also, do we have? I had the wrong injury report in front of me. What's Rui?
Out.
Okay, yeah. So you already have him out, which is big. Like it's he's been fantasy relevant at times this year, but him not playing those 24, 25 minutes off the bench is huge. So it is interesting what they did with their rotation last game. That was one where I was actually going into it like kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with minutes and kind of just like threw my arms up like. Some of these guys are going to play way more minutes than like I want to give them. And it happened to be Christie playing 33 in that one. Christian Wood only played 16. Jackson Hayes played 21. Like,
yeah, they don't have other real bodies. Rotation. They don't have a choice. Like no Vincent, no Reddish, no Rui Hachimura, no Gabe Vincent. That's 4 legitimate, like as legitimate as they can be rotation pieces. Here are the other 4 names of Lakers that have played in the past month. Colin Castleton. That's not a real person. Demoy Hodge. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to say it, but that D''MOI. Alex Fudge. Maxwell Lewis. None of these guys are real. The Lakers aren't playing these guys any reasonable amount of time.
They have like a Scarfino. They have like a version of Toscano Anderson too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Who's not on the injury report any longer, I guess, available and a recent draft pick for the Lakers. Has not sniffed the floor as of yet. Yeah.
So my point here is like I thought they would have a 9th guy in that game, like not play
Hood Schifino.
Yeah,
that was off the top of my head.
Like not that they would play 18 minutes or anything, but I thought there would be somebody out there to soak up like 6, 7, 8 minutes, and they didn't even do that.
No, you want more fudge?
Yeah,
get the fudge out there. Oh God. Apologies to Colin Castleton, Demoy Hodge, Alex Fudge, and Maxwell Lewis for assuming that you guys aren't going to be in the NBA long.
Apologies to Juan Toscano Anderson for associating you with these guys.
Yeah. Oh, man. On the Philly side, way easier to talk about here. Daniel House, questionable. Kelly Oubre out still with his phantom car accident. Jaden Springer is questionable. 14% ownership to Melton, 10 to Embiid. Everybody else is in single digits. I'm actually 2x on Maxey, Harris, Batum. I've got 15% Embiid. The low ownership is helping me here. I don't mind grabbing one of the starters, but I don't think anybody looks all that great.
No, we're getting into me just sort of not having a lot of much. I'm getting 24% the Anthony Melton right now, 25%. So I'm over the field on him. Point guard, shooting guard, 6K. Playing time should look pretty good for him. Played 30 minutes last game. I think you can expect around there, if not a little bit more. So he looks fine. And I think the positional eligibility really helps. Other than that, though, 9% Batum, 8% Maxey. So, like I'm a little bit over the field on Maxey, which is cool, but he's 9,200. It's not like I'm getting a lot of him. Same goes, right around the field on a $4,200 Batum. I have 5% a piece of Harris and Embiid. Wouldn't be mad if those numbers come up, particularly Embiid, but it's just, like I said, I'm getting to those mid-range centers a lot. I'm using Jalen Smith as a value play a lot, and it just makes it tough to get up to Embiid. Robert Covington showing up 1%. So the only guy on this team that I have double-digit exposure to right now is DeAnthony Melton. That's the only guy the field has double-digit exposure to as well.
Yeah, 16 Maxey for me, which I'm fine with. 13 of Harris, I'm fine with. 17 of Batum. I mean, he plays, so whatever. 15 of Embiid, that all works, but this just isn't. It's not as appealing as watching the shitty Wizards, the shitty Pistons, the shitty Blazers, and the shitty defensively Indiana Pacers just kick the shit out of each other. This is like a real matchup. This is a lot harder. There's a lot less to go around. All right. The sponsor, which we're hitting at the top of the hour. Thank God there's nothing behind us. That would be Better. If you guys want to make a bunch of money on your first deposit into a pick'em site, Better is what you're looking for. You can double your first deposit up to $500. Think about that. You put in 500, you get 500. What an incredible start to a bankroll if you're looking to hit these pick'em sites. And you should be trying to soak up as much of this as you can. Grab this sort of money everywhere you can find it. You will be very happy you did so when you build out your bankroll. You could win up to 100x your entry if you correctly select up to 8 picks. They've got it for the NFL, NBA, baseball when it's around, hockey, and more. Now, you got to be 21 or over, and if you're someone has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But I cannot stress this enough. Take advantage of the money. Double your first deposit up to $500. Link in the description of this video. Here we go. Pels Jazz. 4.5-point favorites. That would be the Pels in Utah. 229 total. 12% ownership coming into Dyson Daniels, 12 to Jose Alvarado, 17 to Zion Williamson. Still no CJ, no Trey Murphy, no Matt Ryan. I have essentially none of the Pelicans. Any one of those starters are completely fine to get rotated in, but this game just does not appear to have the same sort of value as the others.
Yeah, I'm not getting much here either. The field's having a bit easier time getting to them. 17% Zion for the field, 12% Daniels, 12% Alvarado, who's at 4K. My highest owned guy right now is Herb Jones at 9%. I have 9% Dyson Daniels as well. So I'm not getting nearly as much as the field. We have Zion 11% to be optimal at 17% ownership. So I'm only getting 1%. And based on that, I understand why. Daniels looks fine. Point guard, small forwards, useful, 5,700. Obviously, you're not expecting 6 steals in the first half this time. That was insanely tilting the other day, and I thought was going to cost me a lot of money, but he slowed down. You weren't awake, but he had 6 steals in the first half, didn't do anything else. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as he repeats the production from the first half, I'm good. Just comes out on fire in the second half. I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely dead. And then just I don't think scored a fantasy point for the last quarter. But he looks fine at that price tag. Alvarado at 4K, I'm getting 5%. The field's at 12. Decent value, probably turns into somebody else later on. So there's nothing that really stands out here. Zion back makes a 9K. Brandon Ingram pretty unappealing. Yeah. Joe Val certainly gives you a ceiling and is comparable in that regard to Ayton, Duran, Turner, but I'm getting more of all of those guys. So yeah, I have a little bit of a bunch of guys on the Pels, but not a lot of anybody. Also, by the way, Jordan Hawkins, big part of my win.
Yeah, 40 minutes.
Yeah, he had 30 fantasy points in the first half, and then I think had 30 fantasy points at the end of the third quarter, and got it going a little bit in the fourth.
Yeah.
Makes up for Jordan Hawkins' chalk days where he scores 8.
It must be nice. Utah Jazz on the other side. We do not know the status on Jordan Clarkson and Lauri Markkanen just yet. They are both questionable, but Walker Kessler now is back. He is projected for 15% ownership. Don't really know if they're going to be starting him or not. You got the Omer Yurtseven experience last time out. Single-digit exposure to everybody else here. If Markkanen and Clarkson are in, this team looks terrible.
Yes, they do. If they're in. The only guy that I'm getting to right now is Kessler. Yeah. 5,500. He played 21 minutes off the bench. The coach speak coming into that game was Kessler doesn't have a hard minutes limit. We're going to try and be responsible with him. And they did basically say, because they put out that random starting lineup. And the reason that Kessler wasn't starting was essentially we're trying to be responsible with him. And we're not trying to put ourselves in a position where we start him and suddenly we've played him a million minutes. So like it once again, it was at least the coach being self-aware that once the game starts, he's not going to have any self-control. So like knowing he's not like hard capped is nice. Played 21 in that game. I think you very easily could see a handful more here. So at 5,500, it's not my favorite play, but I am getting 23% right now. So a little bit over the field there. Pretty reasonable price tag given the block upside, but there's like nothing else if Markkanen and Clarkson are in. I'm getting the 5% Keontae George. He's still 6K, which is reasonable. Assist numbers have been really, really good for him. And obviously playing real minutes as a starter. I have 1% Jordan Clarkson. That's it. Like this, of the teams we've talked about so far, in terms of just number of players that I'm even getting to, Utah's at the bottom. It's Kessler, George, and Clarkson in at least one lineup, and that's it.
If we happen to get those guys out, I'm not so sure that it unlocks anything that's awesome. Like THT is already 5,400. Fontecchio's 3,900, but a poor per minute dude. Like Akbaji's a really poor per minute dude. You're probably trying to project Colin Sexton a bit better. He starts to work his way in, but like I don't think we create anything great.
If those guys are out, it makes everybody look better. But I agree. I don't think anything looks great because the guys that were 3K last slate have come up. You're at 4,500. He would probably, like if he's starting, he's probably the best play here because he is still a good point per minute guy. He played 27 minutes, which again, like the problem is if Kessler plays 24, Yurtseven's at 24 max. So like there is that, you can't just look at that last game and say like, oh, he played 27. Kessler played 21. Like it can be 24 quick, but he would look better. $4,100 Chris Dunn, if he starts, looks better, but it's not like that's guaranteed. He played 19 minutes last game. $5,100 Sexton would look reasonable. He played 28 minutes, but what if he played really, really well in the second half? What if he's not playing well? And then, Chris Dunn comes back in. So that's sort of the tricky thing with Utah is Hardy has been so pissed off with the way that they've played this year. And that essentially was why we got that starting lineup. He basically was just like, the dudes that normally would step in and start have not, haven't been playing with effort, have played like shit. I'm just going to their backups, basically. So like you do, I think, get a lot of that volatility in game where, Clarkson's going to get his minutes, Markkanen's going to get his, but if those guys are out, there's no firm rotation. It's, Sexton's playing hard and playing well. He can stay out there. Sexton just loafed it on defense. Chris Dunn's coming right back in. So there's going to be a lot of volatility in those minutes.
10 guys played from 19.4 minutes to 28.2 minutes. Looks like an old Grizzlies rotation. When everybody was just playing like 24 minutes a night. Worst nights ever. I got to hit you guys with this one quickly. If you're on the sports betting side of things, if you're looking at Odd Shopper thinking, I want to sign up there, today is the last day for our Odd Shopper Black Friday, Cyber Monday type deal. The promo code for Odd Shopper is Black Friday. You get it for 50% off. We're taking a market-based approach to beating the books. You get expected value and expected win rates across sides and totals and props and all of that good stuff. And if you want to sign up using that promo code, the link is in the description. Today is the last day that you get that deal for Odd Shopper. Pop into Discord, get the expert picks as well. There's a lot going on in the Odd Shopper streets, including the massive Odd Shopper YouTube channel. So you don't want to miss it. Last day to get that deal is today. All right, let's close it out. The Denver Nuggets are 4.5-point dogs in LA, taking on the Clippers, 218.5 total. Did I enter that correctly? All right. So Denver's on the back-to-back. We do not know the status of Aaron Gordon, who sat out yesterday. That will matter a little bit in terms of value minutes. If Aaron Gordon happens to play today, this team looks dreadful.
Yep, not getting much of this one either. Goes without saying that if you can get to Jokic, great, but he's 12-8 on a slate that right now doesn't have much good cheap value and does have a lot of good mid-range centers. So that's just sort of been the priority. It's costing me Jokic. I have he's my highest owned guy on Denver, but I have 5%. He's projected for 7% ownership. If the slate started right now, I think this would be the first one in a long time that I haven't been over the field on Jokic. But, just really, really tough to get to him. 4% Reggie Jackson, 1% Gordon, Porter, KCP. So I would have at least one lineup with all 5 of the Denver starters, but just not getting to anything. And neither is the field. Prices here are where they should be. It's really tough to prioritize anything. We got Justin Holiday starting in place of Gordon yesterday. I mean, he's 3,300 shooting guard, small forward. He played 27 minutes, but it's still Justin Holiday. He's a terrible point per minute guy.
Yeah.
Christian Brown played 25 minutes. Strouder played 19. Like, if Gordon's out, you can make a stronger case for like rolling the dice on Christian Brown or Strouder or even Justin Holiday, but it's still not going to make anything look great, I don't think.
Jaden Springer and Daniel House are both out for Philly today, and Jamal Murray is officially out for tonight. So yeah, it's just really bleak. Like, I don't have a share of Jokic, but the way the slate is set up right now, it's really hard to do so. Like, some of the best point per dollar value that exists is just Pacers centers. So you're already boxing out that spot. And then you head on over to the Clippers. It rarely looks better. Now, I have these dudes, but 10% ownership to Zubac, Harden, Leonard, George, Man. I'm actually jamming Kawhi here, 31% at 10% ownership, 8K power forward. I'm also 2Xing James Harden. I don't love getting to the Clippers, but if I'm going to be getting to like the stars, that works. This is just like not a great fantasy game.
Yeah, agreed. Very tough to prioritize much here. I'm getting 13% Kawhi. I'm getting 13% Norm Powell, who has been ridiculously efficient off the bench lately. Field's right, Kawhi's coming in at 10%, so right around the field there. I'm a little bit over on Powell. He's only 4,800 shooting guard, small forward. We have him 13% to be optimal. He's 7% owned. I don't mind being in line with that optimal percentage. 8% Zubac, 7% George, 6% Terrence Mann, who was aggressive offensively last game and looked really good. But it's just going to come and go. It's not like he was aggressive in the sense that he has the ball in his hands and he's calling his own number. He was just putting himself in position to get passes and dunk and score, which, is good. Like, that's the only way he's going to score is if he's cutting and he's, in the right spots. But it was good to see. It's just not something that is going to consistently be there game to game. So it's very, very difficult to prioritize anything on this team. I am at least getting to most of the relevant players as opposed to on some of these other teams, but the only guys I have double digits right now are Kawhi and Powell.
There we go. Yeah, I got the Harden tube. That's just, it's whatever.
For what it's worth, also, just recently, Paul George has been the number one, which I think was expected, but it really, it was very noticeable, like watching the game against whoever they played the other day, Dallas. He had 30 field goal attempts the night before, but like the offense was a lot of either Paul George initiating it, but mostly Harden initiating it, George getting a touch, and then kind of like deciding if Kawhi gets it or not. It's been running through PG, at least for now.
It really just tapers off on this slate, huh? There's just like that Pels, Jazz, Nuggets, Clippers stuff.
Yeah.
Is really
I had a feeling when through the first 2 games, I had 40% of 10 players on every team.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew we were going to have to spend a lot more time at the beginning because you have to talk, like when you have a 5-game slate, you got to talk through all of it. There's way too many viable options, and they are just all happening to play at 7:00 tonight. You got an article coming out in a bit?
Yep, article will be out in a little bit. Lineup generator video with promo code for lineup generator also will be out.
There you go. That promo code is Cyber, by the way. If anybody told you that it is value, that would be incredibly incorrect. Well, we are done here. Shows are coming up throughout the day. Adam and I will be back at 5 p.m. for the deeper dive. Thank you guys for being here. Hit that like button on your way out the door. We'll talk to you later. Peace.